It's awesome to have a Tuesday practice here. Had a really good day today. Went for a while and was a physical, really spirited, really juiced up practice, which was much needed. I think our guys were refreshed to be outside, to be back here and get going. To clean up Saturday, you watch it and it's exactly what I thought after the game. I thought defensively played really hard. It wasn't perfect, but we covered up a lot of things with effort, covered up a lot of things with flying to the football, covered up a lot of things with gang tackling. We also left some out there. I think the challenge to the defense after that was we're not creating enough explosives. We had one interception that got called back on a late hit. It's things like that force you to lose possessions, and in a really tight game are really critical. Aggressive penalty, but still a penalty that takes away an interception. Creating explosives, creating negatives. We created 7. Want to create more negatives. Want to create turnovers. That's one thing early in the season we were creating. We had 1 on Saturday. Offensively, I think in the same breath, played hard, didn't execute in any imaginable way. We had 6 drop balls, out of 20 incompletions. When you have 6 drops and all feasible to make the play on, you're talking about continuing 4 more, 5 more, 6 more drives. The fumbles are so uncharacteristic of what we do and how we do it and how we operate, and it happened. And you could credit it to a lot of things, but primarily a lack of focus in the execution. So offensively, you could play really hard and not execute, and it looks like what it looked like. It resulted in 3 points. And we had 14 drives, 8 3-and-outs. So you got 6 drives where you're picking up the first down and getting going, and then something relatively catastrophic happens. A fumble, a tip ball, a drop, and halfway through a season, you should be executing at a really high clip. And there's a lot of excuses you can make. We're going to choose to not, and we're going to choose to go right back to work. And I thought today, a focus on the details, which it should be every week. But I think when you're building, that's the biggest part for us left to build. Meaning, man, from an effort standpoint, it's at the standard. From a accountability standpoint, it's at the standard. Now there's this last piece of coming to work every single day, having elite focus on our detail. And that's the part when you build and you start from scratch that is really hard. It's the last step in elite programs where you can maintain focus we're now on month 3 of football every single day. And when you're playing meaningful games, in this case conference games, you've got to maintain focus, and there can't be ebbs and flows in what you do. And we have been a very ebb and flow football team up until this point. We've played 6 games. We've had really high points, and then we've had really low points. We are what we are. We're a 2-4 football team, and we have 6 games left. And there's no focus beyond getting better today. Finished with practice, now rehab, meetings. They got class. Be back for meetings tonight. Eat, forcing them to go to sleep because they've got to catch up on sleep after the last couple of days and get back in a normal routine. So Saturday at 3:30, we're at our best from an effort standpoint, from an execution standpoint, and being able to go put together a game plan to go win a football game and then worry about the next one next week. So that's where we are, not hiding from any of it, totally aware of where we are on both sides of the ball, and we got to continue to push. Part I didn't hit on special teams wise, I think we continue to improve as we've had some injuries. Some other guys have stepped up, and it's been really cool to see. So we're, I think, playing really good teams, special teams. We got to continue to do so. So I'll open it up to questions.
Alex, by your own admission, obviously the offense has struggled lately. Very quick possession Saturday. Has there been any thought of modifying the tempo just to give your defense a blow?
Yeah, I think that's a really easy thing to say, man. Go slow. It doesn't change the execution part of it. When you talk about complementary football is either A, you're scoring points, or B, you're putting together long drives that still need to end in scoring points. So what we do offensively when it's going really well, nobody brings up, man, we should probably slow it down a little bit. When it's not going well, that's the first question that comes up. And it doesn't change the execution part of it. You go slow, the drops are still the drops. You go slow, the fumbles are still the fumbles. It comes down to execution, whether you're going really fast, whether you're going slow, whether you're playing in 10 personnel, 11 personnel, 12 personnel, 13 personnel. It comes down to execution. It comes down to points per possession. And so I have not. And we won't, because it is truly what we do in our DNA offensively. Part of it is the tempo. Do we need to slow it down at times? We do, in order to get to the right play that we can execute. And I'm not saying that in a hard-headed way. I'm saying that in the sense that when we're rolling and pick up the first down and get people off balance and hit vertical shots and hit run seams, it's part of our identity. It's really hard to do, which is why we work it so much. But when it's clicking and you're able to pitch and catch and you're able to run the ball on tempo, it's execution early in drives for us, where in the 8 3 and outs, that's where we struggled. And I thought early in the season we struggled. Week 1, week 2. I thought as we got into week 3, week 4, our early down plays were more efficient, and you're getting into second and manageable, and then your third manageable, or just kicking off right back to first. And so I think more so expanding what we do there, continuing to build on our packages, but continuing to expand in order to be able to get it going.
Alex, one of the young guys you specifically mentioned on Saturday night having taken the field was Jaquan. He's second year in the system now. What have you seen in him as far as developing as a receiver, route running, hands? Obviously, he has the speed.
Yeah, Jaquan is a really good example of what in a program that has depth and has time to develop, he's the perfect example. Comes in, red shirts, spends a year with Gio, spends a year in the scout team, spends a year building his body, learning the system, and then in year 2, starts off the season playing on special teams. He's, if not the best, one of our best special teams guys. I mean, he's made a ton of plays as a gunner for us, a ton of plays on kickoff, does a phenomenal job on punt return, is now one of our off returners on kickoff return, goes from that redshirt year to playing a ton on special teams to now gaining real confidence to be able to go play on offense. And we've used him in some specialty things as the year's gone. His role on offense the last couple of weeks has really expanded. He's continuing to expand in his role, but he's confident. He's that time in the weight room, that time on scout team, that time in the on the special teams units has allowed him to build confidence, and now he goes out there and the lights aren't big anymore for him. So now he's ready to play. I think when you take over a situation like ours and you're forced to play some guys earlier than you want, they skip a lot of steps there. So then you end up with growing pains, and we've dealt with some of that. We're dealing with some of that on the D-line. We're dealing with some of that on the O-line. You're dealing with some growing pain things, which is just part of it. And so he's the perfect example of how you would love it to go. And I think as you get several recruiting classes in and continue to build, there'll be a bunch of guys like Jaquan. But right now we're playing some young guys. This last week we played more on defense than we had ever had. And honestly, we played more on offense. Keyshawn Singleton's another one that's just like Jaquan, where you left camp and you're like, man, he just needs some game experience. He needs to play before he's truly out here ready to play wide receiver. Exactly like Jaquan. He redshirted last year, came off an injury, redshirted, Spent the first really 4 weeks playing on special teams, has become a really good special teams guy and played a ton on offense and will continue to play a ton on offense. He's big, he can run, he's now got real confidence. And there's a bunch of guys like that, but those are two really good examples. Thank you.
If Bryce Archie has to continue to play, anything you need to do on offense to accentuate his skill set?
Yeah, I think, with Byram and him both, there's got to be a ton of growth. For Bryce, you go back and you watch it, and Bryce is fascinating because Bryce is his own biggest critic, in terms of, man, I left that one there, I left that one there. I thought for Bryce, playing a game under crazy circumstances, I thought he did a really, really good job of never panicking, being under control, continuing to lead. Thought there was some high-end stuff in terms of throwing the football. I thought some really good decisions in the run game. The protection part was really good on Saturday to where he took some hits, but he was able to deliver the ball like you'd want him to. Got a little bit antsy at times in terms of getting out of the pocket. I think if there's one thing that you leave there saying, man, that was, to me, it was really, really cool to see him go and be under control, be poised, everything you want a quarterback to be, especially in his first start. He left some out there in the run game in terms of out on the perimeter. Man, go ahead, pull that joker down, go get it with your feet. He's a really good athlete, certainly can. I think as he gets more experience, he'll continue to develop in that regard. But I think he needed it for his own confidence. We needed it for our offensive confidence, for him to go get it under his belt. I think the wideouts feel really comfortable. It comes out different. He's got some really, really elite zip on the ball. Comes out different, takes time to get used to as well. And I think him and Byram will continue to get better as they go here.
Are you proceeding this week as if Bryce will be the starter, or is that a game time thing?
Byram is working. He's practicing. I think at the end of the week we'll have a much better feel for how he feels. I think the biggest thing for Byram, and a lot of it has to do with just what his game is like, but it's hard if he's not totally healthy for him to be able to do what he does. And so he's healing, he's mentally in it, he's physically in it. We'll see what it looks like at the end of the week.
What do you make of the running game? How you get that better?
Man, that's a huge piece of execution. We for 3 weeks have really struggled to consistently get the run game going. And you guys know, like, for us, that's such a big piece of what we do, how we do it. We've executed really, really poorly in terms of whether it's a block off up front, whether it's a running back, whether it's a quarterback decision. It's different with Bryce because in his first start, the last thing we wanted to do was run him a bunch. We did a little bit. I think now that he's got his feet under him a little bit, you feel more comfortable if it ends up being Bryce. But we've not executed there. It's been a huge focus. It's been a huge point of emphasis. We've had some injuries up front, which is not an excuse. We got to have guys that go in. And I think at running back, I think you start to press a little bit too. When you're not getting chunk runs, you start to press a little bit. At tight end, we've been really banged up, and we haven't used a bunch of bodies there outside of Peyton. And so that's one piece where we got to develop and get better is at the tight end spot. And we're rolling a few more guys there. But in terms of being able to run it, it's a group effort between the quarterback, the running backs, the O-line, the tight ends, and we've literally, you look at it, and we've been one block off, we've been an aiming point off, and in year two, you shouldn't be, and it's on us offensively to be able to get it right. It's a huge point of emphasis. It certainly is this week, and we're continuing to work through the O-line piece to get the best five to be able to go run the football and be able to protect the quarterback at the same time. But it's not just an O-line piece. It's the tight ends. We've not blocked well at tight end at all here these last couple of weeks. But again, our job as coaches is to find schemes and and find ways to do it. I think a little bit, not a little bit, a lot of it has to do with, like Memphis, what they do defensively. We knew we were going to have to throw the ball 40 to 45 times to go win the football game. What they do structurally, doesn't matter how many people you put in the box. The way that they umbrella the box, you're going to have to make some people miss at the line of scrimmage to be able to go create chunk runs. Tulane, similar in that regard, where they were going to make it hard to run the football. You were going to have to throw it to win. And just what they do structurally. I think when you show that you're not going to run it, you're going to create more problems as well. And so that's for us from a self-scout perspective. We've got to be able to run the football, and we're going to continue to work to do so. But we're good when we can run it and chunk it at times, especially on tempo, and we have not been good. And that's on us as coaches to get that figured out.
Alex, how is Zane?
Zane Herring? Zane left the game. We'll know more here, I think, middle of the week. But he's working like crazy to get back. Did not practice today.
I know you don't want to make injuries into an excuse, but you look at it, Byram, Zane Herring, Weston Wolf, Naeem Simmons, Rashad Cheney, Jalen Schuler, all these key guys. I mean, is it at least fair to say you're operating with a lot of adversity this season on the injury front?
I think that's ball. It happens. To tell you that we're the deepest team in America would be a lie. We're deeper than we were a year ago. I think it's an opportunity for other guys to step in and go play. And each one of those at least happen early enough where you can try to continue to develop guys. But we're in year two of I don't know, I wouldn't say we came in and it was a completely loaded roster where it was ready-made to go. We had a lot of guys that wanted to stay. We had a lot of guys that we wanted to stay here. And those guys that are still here have developed and learned to be really good leaders. And those are the guys that I'm leaning on to help us kind of get out of this rut a little bit. But when you lose a Jalen Schuler, who in a lot of ways has earned the right to be a leader, he's in the middle of the box, gets us right defensively, and you're missing him for 5 weeks, well, next guy's got to be ready to roll. Our job is to have the depth to be able to roll. It was awesome to have Shu back this week, made a bunch of plays. I think there was a calmness on defense. Everybody was lined up and in the right spots. I think Shu has a lot to do with that. And so it was really, really good to have him back. But when you start losing pieces like you said, Rashad Cheney, Naeem, at the end of the year last year, I'd say like Navy game on, Nye played at an elite level. So losing a Nye hurts, but you've seen Josh Porter step up, and Josh Porter's done some really high-end things, and he's a freshman. He's going to do some freshman things, but I think as we build this depth, as we build the roster, and we continue to get game experience, guys like Josh Porter, guys like Cole Skinner, guys like Denelson Exume, and Jahari Grant and Rodney Hill and all these young cats that are playing, when they're sophomores and juniors and seniors, you're going to be really, really glad they got this game experience. Nobody wants to wait on that. I don't either. I want to go win football games right now. But why I guess there's no panic for me is because I knew what I was coming into. I knew that we were going to have to build this thing, and I'm not hiding from that, and I'm not hiding it from our players either. Those guys want to win like crazy, but part of where we are as a program is we got to build. And I told our players 2 weeks ago, I told them again on Monday, there's as much as you want to go and get instant gratification right now, and I wanted to. One of the most rewarding things, and probably because every job I've ever had, with the exception of a year I spent, has been part of building. And there's nothing more gratifying to me than building something. And at times going up the rough side of the mountain to build it. And that's where this is. I got hired here to build a program that's sustainable over time. And that's what we're doing. Part of that is playing young guys. Part of that is when you lose some veteran guys, it's really hard. But it's testing a lot of our character in terms of where we are and where we're going. And I give our players a ton of credit because I think sometimes as coaches, you internally may feel a certain way. Our guy, like, go out there and watch 2.5 hours of practice. We're starting to lead from within the locker room. We're starting to, man, like what these coaches are saying is right, and we should just do what they say. And now you're seeing a bunch of guys, and it's not necessarily all seniors, but a bunch of guys are the ones that are actually leading that message. And so as we continue to build the program, it's going to become more player driven, and as it becomes more player driven, there's more player ownership, and we're going to continue to go get better and better and better. Does that help you catch the balls, or does that help you make the tackle? Man, I sure hope so.
Coach, you talk about the running game. Is the worst thing that can happen to an up-tempo offense to become one-dimensional? Because then that defense is just coming at you every play.
I think it's probably the worst thing that can happen to any offense is to become one-dimensional, especially when that's not what you do. If you were an air raid team and that's what you are, and you are one-dimensional, then probably is totally fine. I think offensive football, you have to adjust as you, certainly week to week, but drive to drive. I think really good offenses are able to adjust drive to drive and adjust to the pictures you're getting. I think in a tempo offense, or at least in our offense, what's different is you get different defensive structure a lot of the time from what you're used to or what you're seeing on film. And so sometimes early in games you get a different structure than what you're used to, and you've got to adjust really, really quickly. But in terms of being one-dimensional because of the tempo, I don't think that they're tied in together. I think if you're one-dimensional in any way, it's probably a little bit harder, especially when that's not your identity.
Coach, your defense, the bottom line is you want to keep people off the scoreboard. They did their job. That's got to be a plus.
Yeah, it's what I said. I think we played really, really hard. I think if you ask our defensive guys, and I think you got Shu today, he'll tell you the same thing. We played really hard and covered a lot of things up, which is what defensive football is. I think what you see when you watch the film is there's a really cool energy. There's a really cool bond of dudes that are playing for each other, that are celebrating together, that are able to get people off the field this past week. There's still a lot of missed tackles. There's a lack of creating explosives. There's so much to work on. But defensively, when you run and hit, you can cover a lot of it up. And that's what our guys chose to do this week. Biggest challenge for us defensively is to stack weeks and continue to put it together.
Coach, could you talk a little bit about UAB, injuries at quarterback and some other positions, what you see from them and what catches your eye about this team?
Yeah, UAB, we went up there a year ago after being a really confident football team after a couple wins and got absolutely embarrassed. I think that stuck with me. I think it certainly has stuck with our players. We played as bad as you can imagine. So, message yesterday, you look at a team that's 1-5, a team that's played a really, really tough schedule. You got to go play Army, Navy twice in the first 6 weeks, which one are two really good football teams, but are both incredibly physical football teams. And they've played a gauntlet of Arkansas and Tulane and some really, really good football teams. A Monroe team that's apparently playing really good ball. They've played really, really good teams. They've looked really, really good at times, and they've struggled at times. I think defensively, they've done the same thing for 2 years and have continued to try to build an identity. I think they're really good up front. I think at linebacker, really veteran. They've got a good secondary. And the stats are crazy deceiving because you play two teams that virtually exclusively run the football. And so it throws what it looks like giving up a ton in the run game. But I think looking so much right now offensively for them, lose their starting quarterback. I think the starting quarterback is phenomenal, whether he's back or not. He had a great year last year, threw the ball over the yard. They do a really good job with the run game. I think the best thing they do offensively is they scheme people really well and change run schemes week to week, pass schemes week to week, to be able to get guys open. They've got guys on the perimeter that can run, and I think they do a really good job on special teams. Really, really sound. They don't do anything crazy. They do a good job at what they do, but they've been explosive in the return game. They've come after punts. I think they do a really good job. I think it's a well-coached team that is, in some ways, getting out of a rut of playing really good football teams, looking for an identity with a quarterback, and continuing to try to build depth defensively. As they've had injuries too, they've played a bunch of guys. But I think deceiving again when you watch what their schedule has been, and it's not necessarily the good teams. It's so much physicality in these first couple of weeks. I think similar to us in that regard of we've played some really, really physical games early in the season, and they're all physical. It's still football, but different when you're playing the academies, and especially right now where they're playing at such a high level. But I got a lot of respect for that staff. I know a lot of those guys, and they're going to be ready to roll. They're going to be coached up, and they're going to be ready to roll on Saturday, and our guys got to be ready.
You alluded to this a little bit earlier, but the Miami game in some ways seems like a million years ago. You've had craziness all kinds of ways, but on Saturday, God willing, you will walk out on Ray J and we'll have a normal game. And is there a normalcy to this week that will be great for practices and getting out there on Saturday like normal?
Yeah, normalcy in the sense that we got back from Orlando last night, and our guys got to go to class at some point this week here. We got some of our guys in the back. They just looked down when I said they got to go to class. Yeah. Yeah, it'll be awesome to get back at Ray J, back inside Ray J and play. You know what? I think, and I've had some time to at least think through this. Like, the adversity that we went through last week, and I said this after the game, is completely nothing compared. I mean, we didn't get to practice like we wanted to. Certainly busing and things, and not being in your home, not being certainly in your home stadium, is nothing compared to what a lot of people are going through still. I think probably a lot of things we take for granted that get taken away. Our guys were in a hotel and were fed and were safe, and so I think a lot of people are going through a lot tougher things right now here. Will it be awesome to get back inside Ray J? It will be. We need our students back out. We need our fans back out. We need to create an incredible atmosphere, and we need to generate a home field advantage. And I think it'll be awesome for our guys to get back out there. And after playing in front of 3,000 people, and those 3,000, we're super grateful that we're there. But I'm super, super proud of our guys. Our sideline and the energy our guys created was awesome. But I think adversity program within our kids, I told our guys, adversity, is either going to be your prison, and we're going to use it as an excuse, or it's going to be your platform to show people how you handle it. And I know Memphis didn't care about any of it, and I know UAB ain't going to care about any of it, so we just got to keep rolling.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
All right, Mike. Or Jason. Sorry. It's on my birthday. All right, linebacker Jalen Schuler led us with 10 tackles last week. His first game back fully healthy in, about a month now?
A minute.
Jalen, how are you and your teammates, families, everybody faring after a difficult 2 days?
For the most part, you know what I'm saying, they getting there. Obviously, being a Florida school and, you know what I'm saying, in Tampa, a lot of our teammates are from, you know what I'm saying, somewhat relatively close areas. But, like I said, for the most part, all good. And for the people that's not, we do whatever we can for them, you know what I'm saying, shoot them a text, shoot them a call. But we got to focus on what we got to focus on,
And as a coach on Saturday night after the game noted that uncertainty was the most difficult thing for him and a lot of people affiliated with the program. as a leader on this team, how did you help everybody maintain the focus at what's basically a very difficult time?
Yeah, nah. Like I said, just being able to tell the guys, look, regardless of what's going on, it's T.O. actually said it. Whatever that is going on, it's still going to be there 3 hours after the game, however long the game take. So we need to lock in on what we as a team have to do, because ultimately we can't control anything outside of us going out and performing. Now, obviously, like I said, go home, go call everybody, go check up, go see what's what. But for the most part, the mere fact that we can only control the defense and, what we do as a defensive unit.
You were gone for literally a week, Tuesday through Monday.
Mm.
A sigh of relief getting back here now?
Oh, oh yeah. Can't complain about what it was. Went out the road, got to stay in a nice hotel, ate good, was safe with my teammates. Obviously, can't complain about that. But yeah, definitely rather be here in Tampa.
Your right leg injury, what exactly did you do to it?
I just sprained a couple ligaments and stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like nothing crazy. Didn't require no surgery or nothing. Just had to get back my range of motion and get everything back to the point where it's just a pain tolerance deal.
Would you say you're 100% now, 95, or where are you?
I'm good enough.
You're good enough.
Yeah.
There were times during games where you would look at sidelines, and you were there, and you were in excruciating pain watching the game. How hard was it for you not to be on the field?
It's more of the mental side of it, because physically, Pat, he just as good as any back in the country to me, but I think it was more of a mental thing, like Coach said, AG said, like just the calmness of the defense, being able to not control, but gather us together and calm us down and have us all on the same page, and just seeing that it wasn't the case for a couple of times, or at times, yeah, it was a little frustrating, but like I said, can only control what we control. And for me during that time, it was working on getting myself healthy, being a good teammate for the guys that were out there.
Coming off that injury, was there a little apprehension out there till that first hit happened Saturday?
Nah, because I was doing everything I had to do in the game in practice. So all week, the weeks leading up to me coming back, or however long it took for me from the point where it was a pain tolerance deal and not actually is messed up, I was doing everything that I was going to be doing on the field. So
you knew you were ready?
Yeah, for sure. Thank y'all.
All right, Mike Hoffman, you're up. Thank you. How's everybody doing today?
Hey, I'm not messing with you today.
Take questions from Mike.
Mike, what was the most difficult thing last week, what you had to go through with obviously a huge Hurricane Milton barreling down and you're out of town? What was going through your mind during that very tough time for you?
First thing was just making sure that my family was all right. My family didn't evacuate; they stayed at home. Just making sure that they were okay, and then just preparing for the game, figuring out how we could score. We haven't scored in 6 quarters on offense, so really just trying to figure out what we have to do as an offense to get better and to be able to put points on the board.
As Jalen was asked, was it like, well, after 1 week on the road, was it like, oh, thank goodness we're back home now? Is that kind of how you felt when you returned last night?
A little bit. It was also a blessing just to be able to be around the teammates, being able to have a safe spot. We were fed good, a good bed, good hotel. So yeah, nothing too crazy though.
You think a lot of good things could come out of a team being together like that during adverse conditions back home? A bonding type thing, or do you talk about how that might positively affect the team going forward?
100%. I can talk for our group, the O-line. That's probably the best time we've had blocking in general since we've been here. And throughout the whole week, we played cards every day, talked every day, ate dinner, Like, we were just around each other every day to where we got sick of each other. So I think that really benefited us. And also, like, you look at the defense side of the ball, they played lights out, in my opinion. I mean, they were running to the ball, they were playing for each other. We just got to connect it on offense.
Speaking of that, when the offense is struggling the way it does, you're off the field after only a few seconds. Do you feel like, man, we're not playing complementary football, we're not helping our defense out? Do you kind of feel accountable for that?
100% every time. You know, as a center, as the guy in the middle, I take blame for that. You know, it starts with me up front, whether it's the right ID, whether it's getting us right on third down protection. I take responsibility for that, and we just got to be better up front. We also got to be better as a whole offense.
When you left to go to Orlando, was there a point where, in the back of your mind, we may not have to be able to play this game? Did it ever get to that point where someone said, okay, we may have to reschedule this later, or was there always a thought, we're going to play?
I think there was always a thought that we were going to play. Coach Golesh did a good job of making sure that no matter what we do, no matter what the outcome is, we're going to play this game. We're going to find a way to play this game. I want to give a shout out to like our player personnel, our ops staff, Andrew Warsaw, Zach Cole, all of those guys, Slick, David Terry, Coach Jones. People get mad if I don't mention them, but I appreciate all those guys for making it happen. Even nutrition and strength and what is it? Scott Training. Yes, thank you so much, Scott and his staff. You know, all of those wonderful people. They all did a good job of adapting and adjusting, and we were ready to play this game. Whether it was going to be Friday, whether it was going to be Saturday, whether it was going to be Sunday.
I'm going to word this closely, but you played through COVID. You played through 2 hurricanes now. They say if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. Is your group stronger from surviving this?
100%, 100%. Just not our group. I feel like the city of Tampa, in general. You know, we got. It kind of just shows like what our football team is. You know, we get knocked down. You always got to fight. You always got to come back. You always got to, you know, shake back. And I feel like that's what the city of Tampa has done so far.
So you expect to hear I get knocked down and I get up again. That'll be playing in the gym this week?
For sure, yes, sir.
Thanks, Mike.
What did you learn about the team this past week?
Man, a lot of things. I learned that, you know, guys really do love each other in our rooms. Guys really do play for each other. I learned a lot. It was just, there's a lot of information I can't tell, but there's also a lot that, like, we love each other on the team for sure.
Taking a peek on Saturday, UAB, what are your impressions of what you see out of them?
They're a good football team. You can't let the record deceive you. They play hard on defense. I haven't looked much on the offensive side of the ball, but I know that they'll play hard. I know that they'll be where they're supposed to be, and I know it's going to be a dogfight from start to finish.
Coach talked about last year, he got embarrassed.
Mm-hmm.
No need to put anything up on a bulletin board. You guys are ready for that, right?
100%. You know, we went up to Birmingham last year. It wasn't pretty, and I know a lot of the guys feel the same way that I do. We just got to be ready to win this week. Can't take them lightly because they will give us our best shot.
All right. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Y'all have a good one.